unrealistic enough, or my parents would be like, hey, why don't you go and find a part-time job? That's your real life. They were so against it. Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk about my experiences of me being trying to become a K-pop idol over the last 9 years of my life. 9 years? Wow, that's quite a lot. Yeah, I know it is. Okay, so in my auditions, I'm going to talk about all my auditions that I did with SM, JYP, YG, BigHit, Pledis, FNC, and pretty much many more companies that I auditioned for. And so, before I can get straight into it, I just want to talk about my past. So a little basic info about me. My name's Alan. I'm currently 20 years old. I'm living in Sydney, Australia, and my nationality is Vietnamese, with a little bit of French. And so let me just jump straight into it. And so back when I was in primary school, I was already exposed to dancing and musicals because of all the mandatory performances I had to do. I remember the times where I had to dress up as a Chinese dancer for a dragon. I remember the other times I had to perform an Elvis Presley song. And strangely enough, after all these performances and all these mandatory dances I did back in primary school, I started to develop a love and a passion for it. And so I feel like this is where I want to belong. I feel like being an entertainer is my destiny. I feel like this is something I wanted to do all along. And so I came up with the idea where I wanted to keep performing. I wanted to keep dancing, and everybody knew me as the kid who wanted to know how to sing and dance in my latest year of primary school. So when I first opened my mouth of me being trying to become an aspiring entertainer to everyone, especially my parents and all my primary school classmates and everything, they were so against it. Like, people keep telling me that, bro, your dreams are unrealistic enough. Or my parents would be like, hey, why don't you go and find a part-time job? That's your real life, not this shit. But honestly, like, I never really listened to them. I never really wanted to give in to them. I just kept on going, and I just wanted to keep on pursuing that career path. And every single time I went out on stage or performed in public in front of all the people that I surround around me, everybody will get the opportunity to either have a laugh at me, have a chance to rip into me, just because I was different. Like, I had the confidence to go out and do all these things. So where did all this confidence lead me to? K-pop. The very first band I listened to was Big Bang. Like, they were the kings of K-pop at that time. I remember the first song being Haru Haru, being so emotional, and it touched my heart. And then afterwards I got into listening to Wedding Dress by Taeyang, which of course was one of my favorite songs to listen to back in these days. It still is now though. And at that time I didn't really know how to get into K-pop apart from the fact that you gotta fly all the way to Korea and audition for that specific company. So I met this amazing friend who's already debuted with a popular group. He lived 10 minutes away from where I lived, and he got me into singing and even more dancing. So every single time we got together, we'd always sing, dance, play musical instruments together, all these type of things that a normal friend would do. Towards the end of 2010, there was this public audition held by JYP. At first, my friend wanted me to come along with him, and to be honest, I was like, no way I am auditioning, no way I am doing this. And he kept on saying, no, come on, you gotta keep going, you gotta come, you gotta try it out for once. After a while, I gave in, and I was like, alright, I'll give it a try. So I remember this audition being held in this really nice hotel. And when I looked at it, there were tons of people. In fact, there were lots of girls, more than guys. And I remember me lining up and getting my number, and it was a pretty big number from what I remember. And so what happened was, they group you up into one huge room, and then the casting directors will take a group of 10. And so that group of 10 will go into one room. And so I waited, I think it was around like 2 to 3 hours for me and my friend to audition. And by the time it was my time to go up and audition, I was like, oh fuck, it really is now time. And so what happened was, after I lined up, they put me into one room. There was like this judge panel. There was a camera right in front of me. And in my head I was like, oh, no. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. Like, I was shaking my hands, like I was so nervous. So what happened was they lined you up into groups of 5. So like they take the first 5, they line you up, and then they ask, what are you doing? Are you singing? Are you dancing, acting, modeling, blah, blah, blah. And so when it was my turn, I was so nervous. The song I remember I prepared was Usher's Oh My Gosh. And back at that time I was gasping out the words, like I was trying to get it over and done with. And then I remember them cutting me off after 15 seconds and moving on to my friend. Now my friend, he's saying, I don't know what song he's singing, but I think he's singing really nice. And so I think the judges kind of smiled at him. I'm like, oh shit, are they gonna take him in or anything? And so after my audition experience, that was it. And that's my friend. You know what? He ended up passing the audition, and now he had to move out of Australia to go to Korea. Honestly, I was so sad to see him leave. I told him one day we would reunite together and we would sing and dance together as a group. And looking back at it, when I was still young at that time, I realized this is something I really wanted to do. Like, I could not imagine how hard I failed the audition. And because after I failed my JYP audition, I started to give it a try at the Australia's Got Talent audition, which was around 2011. So at the Australia's Got Talent audition, it wasn't really the on-stage auditions you see on TV. It was like the preliminary rounds just to see if you can make the final cut to be on stage for the auditions. And so I remember before I did my audition with Australia's Got Talent, I performed and prepared this song called Someone Like You by Adele while I was singing simultaneously with the piano. Like I was playing the piano and singing Someone Like You at the same time. After that, I went into the audition. It was held in this private cricket room that's around in Sydney. And I remember I kept on continuously listening to the song on my iPod, trying to remember the lyrics. And so when it was my time to go in, it was in this small room. There were 2 judges and there was a small camera in front. I remember I sat down and then my father sitting next to me because I was still underage at that time. And then I remember when I was playing Someone Like You, I hit one wrong note while I was singing. I'm like, oh fuck. It actually fucked up my audition a lot. And then eventually he was like, okay, stop. Are you really into singing? I was like, yes. I'm like, okay, you're still young. So why don't you go and get yourself a vocal coach, perform more on stage more often, know your song heart by heart back to front, and if it helps, join a school choir. Like, this was the audition that legitimately gave me feedback compared to the JYP audition back in 2010. And so that's what I did. I listened to them. I even remember the time I had to tell my piano teacher saying, no, I failed the audition. He was like, that's okay. You still have some time to develop, still have some time to grow, you're still young at that time. Just keep practicing, and you'll get after it. And so fast forward to 2012, YG was announcing that they're having an open audition here in Australia. I was like, oh my god, I have to do this audition. Like, YG is the company that manages Big Bang, even 21. I'm like, maybe this is a chance for me to go and audition and then finally perform like Big Bang. Finally, it's now my time for me to audition and finally become the K-pop idol I've always wanted to. And so I remember the YG audition that was held in Australia. It was held around Chatswood, from what I can remember. And so there was a huge line of people when I got there. Like, it was already like around 10, and then there was so much people there. Like a mix, people from different races and everything. Like, wow, everybody has the same passion as me. And so I remember when I was lining up, it was like a huge long wait. It was so tiring, and it was pretty hot out there as well. I remember once I got my sticker, I was asked, okay, what are you doing? Are you doing singing? dancing, acting, or do you want to do both? I decided, why not have a shot of both? And so I chose singing and dancing, put down my details, and then I remember I sat in this really big hall. I saw other people doing other talents of them singing while playing guitar. I remember them doing a couple of moves. I'm like, oh my goodness, my confidence levels just dropped immediately. And so when it was my time to go, what happened was they got a small group, they put you into a room, then eventually they sit you down on one side, then they take one person up, put them in the middle. The judges ask, okay, what are you doing? Singing, dancing, both, whatsoever? And then they make them do the performances. And so I remember when I saw a couple of performances, my confidence level just kept on plummeting down like, and then when it was my turn, I remember after I told them, hey, I'm doing both, she's like, okay, show us what you got. I sang One Direction's One Thing because I remember at the time all the people were telling me sing One Direction to us, and so that was the only song I knew back then, so I sang One Direction's One Thing. And so when it was time for me to dance, I played the song, I think it was, oh yeah, DJ Scores Fall in Love Again, and I remember I copied the entire routine of an Xbox game. If you guys don't know what Xbox game it is, it was Dance Central. And at the time when I was dancing, like, oh my goodness, I had to try and remember all the moves, this and that, and I was scared of messing up these moves. Like, somehow I ended up managing to do the dance without even having to make a single mistake. But the problem was I just felt so rigid here and there. I remember for each time I'd sing and dance, it was about 30 seconds long. The judge was like, okay, thank you very much, I have to leave. And then when I was about to leave, I remember one person came up and said, okay, how did you go? I'm like, I think I did okay. I just felt kind of rigid. I just felt kind of unstable though when I was singing. And I thought maybe I could get in, and I had high hopes, please, I want to get in. And sadly, I didn't. And then afterwards, I ended up going to the United States with my family for the holiday, but I remember there were 2 auditions that were held in the United States, SM and JYP. Well, JYP was first though. And then I look at the company and like, shit, that's the company that I auditioned for with my friend back in 2010. And so I remember this time I preferred a song for As Long As You Love Me. And then I went inside. And it was the usual format where they line you up to 10, break it down to 5. I sang Justin Bieber's As Long As You Love Me. Okay, and so I remember it was held in this really another nice hotel room in New York. They lined me up, and there's the usual cut into 10, then cut into 5, and line up, do your thing. And I remember when I sang As Long As You Love Me, I remember I sang so solid, like I was standing still, I was like, as long as you love me, you're under pressure. Oh my god, it sounds so terrible now that I think of it. Yeah, and so after 15 seconds, they cut me off and I went to the next person. And to be honest, I was like, I probably wouldn't have chosen myself because I had no soul and no emotion. I thought I was able to learn that lesson from my JYP in the SM audition, but apparently I didn't. But SM, it was held in this really crammy room in Los Angeles once we flew to Los Angeles. And so I remember there were tons of girls, like tons of girls there. The song I prepared was One Thing by One Direction again, because I thought maybe this would appeal to all the girl judges as well, and One Direction was still big back then, right? Yeah, well, this time it was the same format like JYP, like they line you up into a group. And I remember when I sang, I tried to sing as if I was trying to make false hand movements here and there. And then I think the lady let me go on for like 30 seconds rather than cut me off like the other girls. Like after they cut me off, after I finished the chorus, there was a dancing round and it was like freestyle. I'm like, oh my goodness, now we have to do freestyle. Needless to say, I just the only thing I knew how to dance was sea walking, so I just did some sea walking here and there. I'm trying to outshine everyone. I thought maybe this would work, but yeah, apparently it didn't. And as you know, yeah, I still fucked up the audition. But to be honest with you, that audition was the most hilarious one I did. Afterwards, after I came back to Australia, back in 2013, 2014, there weren't really any global auditions, or not that I know of. But I remember when I discovered BTS, Bangtan Seoldan, they were so hip-hoppy at the time, like the earlier years, like before the Fire era and everything. I remember listening to them, then I'm like, which company did they come from? I did my own research and it came from BigHit Entertainment. I was like, okay, now this is the company I specifically want to get into because they specialize in hip-hop music. And hip-hop is my favorite genre. So why don't I go and audition for BigHit? But at the time, they weren't holding any open auditions in Australia, so I had to wait until the online auditions came out. And I remember when I kept on constantly applying for BigHit auditions online. I even applied for SM, JYP and YG, but I always put BigHit on like a pedestal because that was the company I wanted to get into. So fast forward to 2015, after I spent all the years of improving through singing with school choirs, not really vocal lessons, and also I tried to dance a bit more. Finally, I decided to give a shot at the X Factor audition. So the X Factor audition, it was held in the same room, in the same place that was held for the Australia's Got Talent audition. It was still held in the Sydney Cricket Ground. And so I remember I prepared a song called With You by Chris Brown, and I had to convince my father, please let me audition for X Factor. I want to try and make it. Like, we spent so much time trying to argue over this and that and everywhere because I've been auditioning in the past and I haven't really made it. And so what happened was, after my father drove me all the way to the Sydney Cricket Ground, there were lots of people, but the vibes were still chill there. And so I remember they lined me up, like the same format for Australia's Got Talent. They sat us down, and then eventually each person entered one by one. I thought, wow, this is time. And when I went in, they were the same. There were the two judges and the camera, pretty much the same format for X Factor. And to be honest with you, I was like, I shook. I was shaking. I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I don't want to be a singer. Like, that was running to my head. Like, fuck this. I don't want it. I want to just go back to my normal life. And then when I sang, I was literally gasping the words out. Like, the nerves got the better of me again. Like, I tried to show some false confidence here and there. And so they stopped me. They gave me the exact same advice that Australia's Got Talent judges gave to me. They said, you're still young. Go get yourself a vocal coach, sing more in school choir, and perform more. And I remember at the time, after failing that X Factor audition, my father was like, now you know the reality, give up now and just move into your normal life. And I remember the other time, I sat in my room, I locked it, and I kind of cried my heart out a lot. But then afterwards, I had to do some self-reflection in my head. I'm like, okay, how can I stop this stage fright? How can I stop this nervousness? So what I did was I took the incentive of going into the talent quest that my high school held, and I remember performing in front of people. Like, I still had the nerves in me, but I still performed in front of people to try and get over my nerves. And honestly, it actually helped quite a lot. Like, I now have a renewed sense of confidence at that time, even though the performance was quite hated by a lot of people, just because I had to try. But honestly, I was still a little happy about myself, but kind of sad that I didn't get to represent in the next round of Talent Quest. So later on, I was able to go to USA again, and I did my usual SM and JYP global auditions, and with the usual of me being cut off. But the problem was, at this time, they only allowed us to limit ourselves to one category. And then there was a BigHit audition that was held in New York. I was like, oh my god, this is the company I want to get into. I'm going to have to go for this audition. And at the time, they're still accepting mixed genders at that time. That was before they started phasing out the girls just to only accept males. I remember at the time we waited so long, and honestly, like, my soul was so drained. And I think I waited for around like 5 to 6 hours in this crammy hotel room. And then eventually when it was my turn, the judges were like, without any soul, okay, do what you gotta do, we'll contact you if you like it here and there. And I remember I sang Usher's You Got It Bad. And honestly, like, I think I sounded that good. The judges cut me off after I finished the chorus. And then they went on to the next person. And I remember that next person, he choked like hell. Like, it was pretty much the same format, except it was a bit disorganized because they pretty much group you into like 5 rows or 5 to 6 rows pretty much. So like 5 rows of 5 people. It was like, it just felt like an awkward process. And so I remember I was praying to God, please let me get into BigHit, this is something I want to get into. I was like, no, sorry. After I returned from USA, I started to have a shot at the NFTA audition. Now if you guys don't know what NFTA is, it's pretty much like a small acting academy here in Australia. And so it was pretty much intended for acting, but if you had other talents, you could do it. I wish K-pop companies would still have the intent of doing more than one category. And so for this, I remember I had to act out one line from a KFC commercial, and then I remember I had to showcase other talent, which I sang Usher's You Got It Bad. The judges actually liked me. They told me, okay, I know you have your dreams, your career and your passion in this line, but I recommend why don't you finish school first before you get into it. I was kind of a bit offended by the way how they told me this, but I took this into account and I just went on. So fast forward to 2016, which was like my final high school year. I remember I submitted an online application for Starship audition when Monster X got big at that time. And then I remember I got a call back saying, hey, we'd like to see more of you, will be coming down to Australia. I was like, oh shit, damn, this is a real private round audition. So I remember they told me to wait in this hotel room again, not in the CBD or anything like that. But when I did my audition, the judges greeted me. They were able to speak English though. They told me, okay, sing a few more songs. So I first sang Usher's You Got It Bad again. Then I sang a John Legend song, which was All of Me. And then I sang another song called Adele's song Like You. Afterwards, they asked me to sing a Korean song, which was Eyes and Resist by Taeyang, because that was a song I knew by heart. And then they said, okay, can you dance? I was like, yeah, I can dance. So then they put on a random song, and I remember crip walking, but this time I used my arm moves like this and that, here and there. I think the judges kind of liked it. And so afterwards, they was like, okay, thank you, can you please give us your basic information? Your name, your age, your height, your date of birth, yada yada yada. I did that, I had to face the camera, and needless to say, we had to take a few shots. Afterwards, they packed the stuff, they was like, okay, thank you very much. We'll hear from you within 2 weeks. At first, I thought after 2 weeks, I was like, oh damn, I think I failed it again. I think I failed my audition again. But this time, they actually gave me an email, and they told me, you have to come to Korea. For this one, I was like, oh my goodness, I actually did it. I think I passed that audition. Or maybe it could be in a final round. I remember telling my parents, they told me, no, you have your HSC to focus on. You have to do that. And plus, to me, I didn't like the idea of dropping out of high school during the middle of my HSC period just to do this. So I'm like, all right, I'll just skip it. And so afterwards, I started to perform on Talent Quest again, but oh my goodness, this performance was so terrible. Like I tried to sing and dance at the same time like a K-pop idol, even though the song was Usher's Oh My Gosh. And I remember the time people were laughing at me on how bad the performance was. But in my heart and in my mind, I was like, I don't really care. I performed. I now have this new confidence that I found inside of me. And so afterwards, I remember I auditioned for Disney in Singapore after I finished my HSC. And I remember it being in another hotel room, but not any other ordinary hotel room. I remember held in Marina Bay Sands. I'm like, holy shit, it is so for real. And I remember this Disney actress sitting there, a casting director. I had to recite lines. And so afterwards, I had to find my own way of adding my own character into my acting auditions. And so they gave me this line. I had to go up to the casting director and I had to act it out. I think I did okay in this. And then when my number was called, I was actually called back for a second evaluation. They said, okay, you got to prepare another line. Then you have to act it out. I did that. I think the judges kind of liked my own personality. I remember that time where they had to punch me in the face. Not literally, no, but I remember the other time where they fake punched me in the face. I had a good reaction to it in my line. Oh my goodness. And then there was a third round. They told me to, okay, you have any more talents to showcase? I did my singing. I did my usual top 4 singing again. I did my usual sea walking dance with hand movements. I did one more line of acting. I thought, holy shit, I think I'm gonna get signed. I think I'm gonna get that final contract. But afterwards, they're like, no, sorry, you didn't make the final cut. Audition after audition after audition, I had to go ahead and tell my parents. My parents have been like, why the hell are you keep on doing these type of auditions? I'm like, oh my goodness, I keep failing every single time. I had to find out what was wrong with me. I had to find out. So instead of auditioning, I started to have a shot at trying to make original songs. So I made 2 original songs. At the time I was 16 to 17 years old. And at first I thought the execution worked out on paper, but in real life it failed because of the limited budget I had. And so I produced this song called Force by Alan Walker. Like, I wrote my own lyrics to the song. I remember producing it and putting it on YouTube, and oh my goodness, it got so much hate because of how weird my voices sound. I think it was the fact that the song was way too high for me and the song was just way too fast the way I wrote it. I tried another song and it was slightly better though, but due to my limited budgeting, it didn't really reflect the way how it was supposed to be in my personal perspective. And as a result, I just got so much hate. I got so much hate comments in there saying, bro, you're fucking it. Your fucking song's so fucking cancer and everything, like yada yada yada. You can go ahead and take a look at that, or you're free to listen to it and like or dislike it. I don't really care what happens to it anymore. Fast forward to 2017, I auditioned for NFTA again, and I got a pass. Finally, that was a moment. And so when I was with them, they trained me to become an actor, and eventually I was referred to a couple of movie roles, which I now officially have on IMDB. I was like, yes, finally I did it. And at that point, after performing on stage in NFTA, it's just gotten to a point where I'm just no longer nervous anymore. Like, I can do my auditions with confidence. I can go ahead and perform with confidence. Like, all the past failures and everything that I've learnt, and all the mistakes that I did in my performances have now shaped me, shaped my mindset, and now every time I walk into an audition, I'm just no longer nervous anymore. So in 2018, there was this BigHit audition that was held in Hong Kong. And at that time, I felt that, why can't I just come to Australia? Then I thought in my mind, okay, this is going to be a challenge for me to get into BigHit, for me to, and even to go all the way. So I remember I had to grind off all my part-time jobs. I even sold my favorite pair of sneakers just so that I could be able to afford this trip to go to Hong Kong. And I remember when I was announcing it to my parents, they were so against it. They were threatening me, if you don't cancel the trip, something bad will happen to you. But honestly, like, I didn't listen. This is something I want to do, and this is the company I want to get into. And then after my parents, they couldn't talk me out of it, I ended up going on this trip, and I remember being alone, but honestly, I just didn't care. So on this BigHit audition, it wasn't held in a hotel room, it was held in a private place. It was held in a Korean cultural center in Hong Kong. And there were tons of boys there. But I remember I learned this technique of, if you arrive early, you have more chances of the judge seeing you, and the judges won't be that tired. And so when we lined up, what happened was they take you into groups of 30 to 40 people. Like, it was the same format back in New York. It was a pretty terrible format in my opinion. I remember lining up on these staircases in the PMQ back in Hong Kong. And so when it was my turn, they asked me, okay, what are you doing? Singing or dancing? Like I was only limited to one category. I did singing. I sing Usher So You Got It Bad, and I actually performed with my heart and my soul. And then after that they cut me off saying, okay, thank you, we on to the next. But something that I noticed was that the camera wasn't even on and the lens cap was still on. Like, why the hell are they not recording their auditions? And if you were to do dancing, you'd have to go last. And I remember my friend being Joshua Desena. Shout out to Joshua Desena in this video. His YouTube channel will be up there. Feel free to check it out. He danced so amazing. And I was still surprised they still had the same reaction towards me on those who did pretty shit. And so I remember after I left the audition, I was actually genuinely happy with my performance. Like it was like the best audition I did in my opinion. I put in so much heart and put in so much soul, and the fact that I set up for it, I was so proud of what I did. And I had high hopes saying yes, I will get picked because I did well. Even Josh as well. And then afterwards I was like, nah, I didn't get picked, sadly. And so afterwards I decided to try one more time, but this time I decided to fly all the way to Korea. So I remember sacrificing my Christmas to work my heart out, to save up enough money for me to go on this trip and fly all the way to Korea. And again, my parents disapproved it, but I still went anyway. And so when I did my auditions in YGX, SM, BigHit and FNC. So for YGX, it was held in a training center in Korea. There's a little snippet of me on Instagram if you want to come see. Like, it looks so dark, you probably won't see my face. It was the same format as YG. They bring you into the groups of 10 and then one person comes up. And the problem was, like, I couldn't understand Korean at that time, so I tried to speak with English. They were able to understand it though. And I remember when I sang, I tried to sing the best I could, but due to the extremely cold weather that was held in Korea, my vocals were kind of restricted, and it kind of restricted my flow. Eventually they're like, okay, thank you. And all the other people just danced. And then there was another girl who sang amazing, but they had the same reaction towards each other. I was like, okay, you can go. And then they gave us like a little chocolate pie as a result of us performing. And honestly, I just felt a little devastated. BigHit audition, this time it was actually groups of 10 and each person performs, but the problem was the camera lens wasn't on again. And so I was so devastated when I knew they weren't going to pick us at all. Then there was this SM audition that was held weekly at the SM Town. I remember being lots of girls held in the SM Town building, and I did my Chris Brown song instead. I tried to impress the judges. And then after that, they were like, okay, thank you. I thought I did better than everyone else, but apparently not had the same reaction towards me. And then I was meant to audition for JYP, but due to Seoul now, I couldn't audition. Like, they just cut us off on the last minute. But instead I auditioned for FNC, who was still hoping open auditions in Korea. I did that. And I remember I sang a song called, I think I sang an Usher song again. Yeah, an Usher song, yes. I sang an Usher song called Moving Mountains. Like, it was so high pitched. They asked me if I could dance. I remember I did a freestyle dance called Icons, killing me. I tried to remember the choreography, but obviously didn't. And I tried to add a bit of my own breakdancing moves here and there, try to show my creativity. They're like, okay, thank you. And then they just asked us to leave. And honestly, like, after getting back from Korea, it was such a depressing experience. Like, I just couldn't believe how hard I tried, how hard I saved up that money just to fly to Korea and then not get selected. And then there was one more audition that was held in Australia, which was the KPOP audition. It was held in a private dance studio around Lidcombe, and I met so many people. I remember I told one of the judges, when they asked me, what audition is this? Is this your first time? I told them, no, this is the 64th time I auditioned. He was like, 64th? Wow. And so when it was my go, This time I started to change the way how I auditioned, like after failing my audition in Seoul. So I'm like, I tried to impress the judges, I'm trying to do a little bit of groove and a little bit of dance in my song With You by Chris Brown. And guess what, I think the judges smiled at me and they liked me, and then I thought maybe there was a good chance of me passing. But honestly, like I didn't really care if I passed the KPOP audition or if I failed the audition, because this is the company I wanted to get into. It's been like around nearly a month since I auditioned for KPOP, and I haven't heard back from them, but that's alright. I didn't really care less. Overall, I just want to say, just don't give up on your dreams, man. As for everyone who's going through the same path as me, for people who just keep on failing like I do, I just want to let you know one thing. There were times I wanted to give up entirely. I wasn't supported on this journey of me trying to become an aspiring idol. Everybody was there ripping into me, saying, give up on your fucking nonsense dreams. You'll never be a singer, so just don't even do it at all. Even my parents, they told me just be realistic. Go and find a proper job and everything, but honestly, I wanted to get none of that. There were no people who wanted to reach out for me. There were people who just wanted to take a dig at me. Every time I performed on stage back in high school, everybody was just using this as a way of me to rip into me and just have a laugh at me just because I genuinely wanted to try. There were even times I wanted to end myself because I just felt like I didn't even know what's life worth living in anymore. Sorry. Because of that, I remember the other times I failed my auditions. I locked in myself in my own room and just cried my heart out. The other time I failed my auditions back in Korea, I drowned myself in a pool and I just screamed my heart out. Like, if you don't know how bad I wanted to achieve this, it's that fucking bad. But again, as I said before, there were times I wanted to give up, but for some reason, why did I not give up? Because this is a path I genuinely wanted to do. As for all the people who reached out to me, and for that one friend who's making it big with JYP, with the K-pop boy band group, with one of the songs that I generally listen to, I just want to say thank you so much for helping me realize my passion and my goal, because without you, I would have been nothing. I would have still been that same old person, just being relentlessly bullied at or thrown at. I wouldn't be pursuing what I truly wanted to do. And all the emotional support that I received, I really want one day, I really want to run it with you, just like back at the times when we were performing together before you left for JYP. If there's one thing I just want to say, do not give up on whatever you do. Do not give up on your own dreams, your own goals, and all the passion. Because all the failures, all the pain, and all everything you have suffered, it made me who I am today. It really did. And honestly, 2019 is the year I want to achieve everything. I'm already 20 as of now, and this is my last chance. I just want to show to all the companies, especially to BigHit, the company that I've looked up to since 2013, that I really wanted to prove myself. I want to be here. I don't care if you run me through to the ground with all your vigorous training, especially with all your countless hours in singing and dancing. or even learning Korean, it is something I want to be part of. I want to run myself to the ground with something that I love to do. Nothing else. What I just want to say is thank you so much for taking the time to view this video. Please leave in the comments below any questions or any tips. I will be releasing another video on how I can give you tips on how you can do better in your auditions or how to succeed auditions in general because of my past 9 to 10 years of auditioning. Thank you so much for listening.